as far as I know, they haven't done it.
Okay.
This is,
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting for the City of Henderson, Tuesday, June 28, 2022. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowell,
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt is absent, Commissioner Staton.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here. I want to make you aware that Randall Redding is here today, sitting in for Dawn. And Randall, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that has something to bring before the commission? Please, yes. Kind of scoot a little bit over toward that podium, and the microphone will pick you up.
Okay, I'm gonna turn around, Mayor, so y'all can hear.
It'll pick you up from there. That's fine.
Mayor, I got four things to say, and one thing. There are two, I try to get on with everybody, okay? First, second of all, there's two bus drivers that will not pick me up. First thing, you know, they refuse to pick me up. They get mad at me all the time. One of my things, John said, another one is, Mike, oh, I know that he's working on the back of his head.
Mike Keaton.
Yeah. They get mad every time they had to pick me up. This worker here, not my favorite worker. My favorite worker only fix Friday. So, it won't hold that charge. Won't charge. But that's how come I didn't have to call the EMT our trucks at night. I try not to travel at night. There's been a couple times I gotta go out to Walmart and while I was having that excuse to get back home, I had to call the paramedics, fire truck, tow truck, you know. So, anyway, make a long story short, as good as I can get it. Friday night, I went out to Walmart on the bus. And first thing, charger that I got in my bag, I put Walmart and I added a little more juice so I could get home. Well, what I got is Adams Street in Powell. And I had to call fire people on the emergency group. So, he loaded me up in the ambulance. And they had to call the tow truck and the wheelchair to my house, which they took it to the wrong address first. So I was laying on the day bed, and I told the fireman before they left, and give them the same, but he jug. I wouldn't
Understood, yeah.
and, they didn't do it. So, I had to call them back, but my caregiver, Mayor, only worked 5 days a week, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Ain't worked no more than that. So anyway, I had to, call my NT back, have them take me back up to the emergency room, with that swing clothes, help change me. Then I set up there, the waiting room in the emergency room with this charger, because they bought my, after they took it to the wrong address, brought this chair up to the ER. I had set at the ER waiting room, charging this chair, trying to get back home. So therefore, I had to take medicine on a regular daily basis, which means Imodium. I don't know what Imodium is. I got IBS. I told the ER, I said I need Imodium, otherwise I can feel when I'm gonna have accident. And then you know the muscle. So they put a sheet underneath my retirement chair. The sheet got wrapped after I left at 11:30. After I had an accident on my hip, she got wrapped up in my wheels. I fell out on the ground on 7 springs, trying to get back home. Fortunately, a friend of mine, and this was Saturday morning, afternoon, whatever, a friend of mine called paramedics, but then another friend of mine, and one friend of mine, I know I ain't making it clear, her husband, other friend, Derek Mullins, picked me up, put me back in the chair, my chair before the emergency crew got there. I don't know. These people, my friends, took the sheet out from underneath me. They put me back in the chair. So, all I'm saying, I've just been hurt. Really seriously been hurt. I don't have to wait. I get back to school.
Yes, yes, sir.
And people are like they don't care. They are like, and I'm doing this to play with 911. I ain't trying to play with 911. I'm not, as of right now, Mayor, sir, I'm not in my, I think, comfort zone. Like I said, my work is gonna be Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this over there when I talk about the bus service, I can't, I talked to Crystal about it. But I don't know, Crystal, talk to you about it or not.
You mind if I respond?
Okay.
I talked to Crystal yesterday, and looked at an email. I will say, Mayor and Commissioners, Crystal is checking into the video, on both of the gentlemen's buses, and she's going to report back to me once she finds something out.
I'll be true what they, buddy. That Saturday, I off at Walmart. And, let me get this right, so I can get it right. Yeah, I go to three-car bus at my house. And, go to Spain Corner, go to Walmart, and just grab the bus. Well, when I got off at Walmart, I didn't say that stupid all. He said, have a nice weekend. I'm not gonna see you next weekend. I said, one thing I did, what I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, if I keep you here, 4:30, bus stop at Walmart, you're gonna be in deep doo-doo. No, I didn't ask for that. I asked for that at all. I didn't say hell, but he said, get out of here. If I can.
Well, again, we will review the audio and video, and if there is inappropriate action by one of our employees, we will take care of it to a disciplinary measure.
And, I'm gonna come to the other end of them, like, a guy who said, name I can't say. I went to the boot camp office. Well, I thought I had enough power again. At home. No, I didn't. So I stopped right there at Shoreway Eastgate. I went Shoreway Eastgate. Once I was there, I took on the steel guy and what? I guess. Yes. I just didn't say much, but he I can say.
Okay. Jamie, did you say that you get your other chair back
Friday,
Friday?
this Friday,
And that will hold the charge and this, that, and the other better?
yeah.
Okay. So that part of it is going to be a better situation for you after Friday, you
Yeah.
think, on that part of it?
Yeah, that way I know what to,
Okay.
that way I don't have to call.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad of that, and I look forward to you getting that chair, and I know you do too, getting your regular chair back. And Buzzy, as Buzzy said, he will check on with Crystal. They'll look at that, video and audio, and if there's something that was inappropriate, they will deal with it. And, hopefully you won't have another problem.
I swear my dad is crazy, I'm not lying.
You don't have to swear, I believe you, you don't have to swear, but we just gotta check it out, you know? We just gotta check it out. So anyway, after Friday, hopefully a lot on your side will kinda get figured out there when you get your regular chair back.
Yeah,
And then Buzzy and, Crystal will take a look at the other.
and hopefully I won't have to call. Yeah,
Yeah,
paramedics,
yes,
or
yeah,
emergency room,
understand,
unless I really,
unless you really need it.
yeah.
And, so I'm sorry for your problems, and, I wish that it hadn't happened, but we will deal with it as best we can for the future.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Can you get out there okay, or
I'm
through
gonna
there?
open the door for
Yeah.
you.
Might have to move that podium over just a little bit.
Well,
I don't know.
I got it, man.
Okay. Can you get on the elevator okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, George.
Okay. Next, we have 4 presentations, and all are very important, and we want to get to those. And the first presentation has to do with our sports complex update, and architect George Link is going to give us a report on that. So, George, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hello, I was just texting you, make sure you could see me.
Do you want to say anything in the meantime?
Yes. First of all, George, thank you for coming before us today. George is with DZ Parrott and Shoulders out of Evansville. As y'all are aware, George and his firm have been working with our sports committee now for probably well over 6 months, if not longer. Dylan, being the project manager, has been working closely with George. And what our goal today is to let George come before the Board of Commission and explain what the final product of Phase 1 will look like, and answer any questions you may have as we proceed forward into advertising and getting this project out for bid. So, George, I'll turn it over to you at this time, and thank you.
Buzzy. Thank you for the opportunity. What we're looking at, and what's on the sheet is overall master plan, a little more detailed future phases, but let's put this together to look at what phase 1 is. And within this first project, we're taking a lot of alternates, make sure the city has a lot of choices and ability to manage budgets in that. But in this first phase, what we're looking at is developing here off of Airline Road, an entrance drive, parking here, a fourplex of ball fields. Here, these will all be 200-foot fields, central concessions and playgrounds and restrooms right here. Taking alternates for these 2 fields in the second quad. This quad will be all 250-foot fields right here on that. And then in phase 2, we're also developing this football, soccer field that have concessions, restrooms, seating. In that, there's a building that's being bid, sports building that's being bid. Within that, there's an alternate develop out an office, meeting space, storage for some of the youth leagues in there to have that space. So taking alternates for these 2 fields, for the playground equipment and the structure for that. Taking alternates for lighting on each field, each of these 6, plus this field right here.
Excuse me, George, do you mind to get in front of the mic?
Oh.
We've got some viewers watching, and they tell me
Okay.
they can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. So in the base bid, what we're looking at, if we can afford to do everything that we've designed in this phase 1, we'll end up with 4 200-foot fields here, central concessions restroom facility with playground on that, and then 2 250-foot fields, a football / soccer field here that will have concessions, restroom, and a press box on this side. That building in particular is going to be bid out in, we'll have to bid it either in August or September to take advantage of some funds that the city just received from the state. And since those funds are subject to the Davis-Bacon Wage Act, we wanted to peel out a piece instead of putting the entire project under that requirement there. And then here we'll have the storage facility for it. In future planning, there will be there's thoughts of an indoor practice facility here, more parking along this edge, 2 additional football / soccer fields here, more parking here. There will be another field that will be developed up in this corner of the site, and then these 2 additional fields. Within this, there will also be a walking trail outside of what we call the secure perimeter of the 6 fields. There will be a walking trail that will go along this edge, around the fields, and depending on how far the development goes in this first phase, it'll either turn and go here and loop back around, or here and loop back around. And then eventually, as the future phases come about, that loop will go all the way around all of the fields right there. Over here to this side, this is where we're doing stormwater detention for the runoff. In this phase, we're also putting in all the substructure for storm drainage, sewer, water for all future projects as well. So everything's been sized as if it's going to be fully developed, but we're not bidding out these two fields, this field, and these two, and this development down here at this time. We've got them designed, so in the future, the city says, hey, we want to do this, so we repackage it and put it out to bid.
I think one comment, and I'm glad George pointed this out, but the future field that would be, that's not shown right there, and the two alternate fields, the 250s, are planned to move the current operation that is at Park Field will be moved out to this site in the future. We have met with the representative from that program. He's had input into the design, as well as PCMA and our sports group that have been together now for well over 2 years, have all had input, as well as Trace, and I see Mark Simmons walked in the back. Mark's been involved as well, so we feel like at this point in time, all parties that would utilize the complex have had input into this discussion. And the only exception is the indoor facility. We have a separate contract on it, but we felt it was more important right now to get phase one approved and started. And so, George, I'll give it back to you, and or Dylan, if you have any comments.
We would anticipate receiving bids August 2nd, and we're projecting a substantial completion in May of 2023.
Completion of the first phase?
Yeah, first phase.
Wow.
First phase.
That's quick.
Our goal is to try and get the field sodded this fall, so they've got a growing season.
What kind of grass we put in?
You would ask that.
It's not that synthetic.
There's been a lot of discussion on there about it, and I would have to say we put in what we agreed upon, but I don't recall that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do know it's not Bermuda.
Good. Yeah.
Comment, we did look at the cost of artificial turf.
Mm-hmm.
We also got input from the users, and everything we heard, no artificial turf. So with that being
Really?
said, George's group has a turf expert that we talked with that will pick a suitable turf that will sustain our climate, but I think also that we have irrigation.
There's irrigations on the field as well as under drains in there, and the area, what we're calling kind of secured perimeter, which would basically secure all the fields after hours. All that area inside there, we're sodding it. I've done enough projects like this that we're not going to try to fight seeding it or spreading it. Sod can let it go. It's better, faster, the product on it.
And to answer the question, what we heard about the artificial turf is that in the summer, it gets very hot, and with the young age group players, the artificial turf probably doesn't make a big difference.
I was just thinking on the soccer/football field.
Yeah, Commissioner Thomas, that's kind of my thought too, is right now we don't have the money, but since we've got two fields there in the future, I think we're always leaving open to the possibility of one of those being turf, because that's always been my, I guess, dream as well, is that one of those fields would be, because the great thing about those fields is a lot of times, their main season isn't necessarily in the summer. And plus, anybody can use those. I mean, look, if it's a turf field, I mean, I used to play over in Evansville, and I remember seeing University of Evansville's collegiate baseball team out doing throw-arounds on their turf soccer field before we were going out to practice soccer. So I think down the road, we would definitely like to keep in mind the potential to turf one of those. That's just kind of my 2 cents. But I think with the budget we have now, it's probably not reasonable, but definitely something we're keeping in mind.
I'd definitely like to see one of those in the future.
That turf to any of those, that's going to run you, if you don't, it sounds contradictory, but deal with the heat issue, the way you deal with that is you put an irrigation system on it, wear it down on the turf to cool it down. So it can be done, it's additional expense, but you're probably looking at $315 million a field.
Never mind.
But you weigh that against ongoing maintenance and
Yeah.
upkeep and all that
Well,
sort of stuff, so there.
and there are studies out there, I'm gonna say probably about 15 years ago, when the first ones kind of started going in that I was aware of, and I thought, for high school, and I thought, well, what's on? But, up in Columbus, Indiana, they actually did a study that, before they put the turf down and after they put the turf down. And the usage went from like 120 uses on the grass field a year to over 1,200. You can literally march people off one side and on the other.
There are pluses and
Maybe you'll
minuses
find a
for
couple of
both.
sponsors for that turf field.
Mhm.
Maybe that attractive. How many parking spots are there available on, with, section 1?
You can give me a moment, I can answer that question, I just gotta get some drawings back here.
And while he's doing that, Buzzy or Dylan or somebody, what are we doing, can you explain some of the things that we're doing with our design to make sure that we're being good neighbors to the neighborhood across the street?
We'll let George address that.
Okay.
One thing, Mayor, I will say about the parking is, one thing we've talked about. I don't know that it's necessarily included in this bid. I know George mentioned several different alternates. I think one of which might be some of the paving versus gravel, but we could always in the interim, like if we got into this and we decided that the parking we had, you would look at Newman Park and think there's plenty of parking, but everybody knows otherwise. And so who's been there on a day where they have a big tournament. So we could always add a gravel lot, in the primary phase until some of the other parking was built, should that become an issue. So before George told you how many spaces we'll have actually, under the final construction, I did want to mention that as just a possibility. I know it's not ideal, but in the interim, as we're building this thing out, that could always be one potential solution should that become a problem, because there is plenty of space, especially there in the southeast corner, that's not going to be developed right now.
That's a problem right now at the Pee Wee League fields or the PCMA fields, and I think adequate parking and all, when they have these tournaments and things, it seems to be a very critical thing to visitors.
The first phase is over 160 parking.
160.
How does that compare to Newman? What do we have at Newman?
Dylan, do you
I
know?
wouldn't think that.
I do not. If Trace is in the room, he may know, but I don't. I mean, I could count and figure it out. It wouldn't take long.
I was just curious if we believe that parking is an issue at Newman, which ultimately has less fields than what we're going to be having at the final phase, it would stand to reason that we would compare 160 to what we have at Newman. If they were comparable, then we might want to shoot for more out of the chute.
Is the area down on the far left end, is that the detention pond?
Yeah, right here, this is
Okay.
the detention. There'd
But-
be more parking that would be featured right here and more parking up here in this corner.
Yeah, and there could be some gravel parking.
Yeah,
I want
Yeah.
to say that all told, we should end up with in excess of 400 parking spaces.
Yeah, I think we need
Fully
200
developed.
spaces to start with, though, because that's a big deal with these visitors.
So what we're saying is we're going to have 160 paved spots, is that right? Initially, but then I think if I understood Dylan correctly, because we don't have the 2 extra fields and other things that we're going to add later, then we could put in a gravel pad for plenty more parking in the first phase, and then build it out during the second phase, some more permanent type parking. Is that what we're talking about?
I think so.
Okay.
George, do you want
back to
to?
the-
Oh, go ahead.
About being a good neighbor. We're adding trees along the edge right here, all the way along the property right here. On this side, we're adding a fence that will basically chase the entire property line all the way out to Airline Road right there, to try to keep people from migrating from here over onto adjacent property. With the sports field lighting, it's all LED lighting, which has very little light spill off the site. In comparison, when you look at traditional incandescent field lights like that, there's just light going
Sure,
everywhere.
sure.
The LEDs are so specific that In this case, you actually have to have an uplight on the poles, because if you don't, you'll lose the ball. When it goes up too high, you actually have to uplight it, and the light, we don't anticipate, a lot of, any lights going off the site.
Do we have, are our current ordinances up to date enough to where the sports complex will just follow what we have in place? Or do we need to update anything in terms of how late they're allowed to have tournaments, how much noise they can make, et cetera, et cetera? Do we have enough in place to make sure that we're gonna be, that it's governed properly, or do we need to update anything before that starts up?
That's a great question. The answer is we've not discussed
Okay.
or addressed that, but we can.
Okay.
Other questions? Anybody in our audience wanna?
Do we have enough, construction workers around to work on this? We got a lot of construction going
Four
on.
contractors have already picked up the drones.
Have they? Good,
So,
good.
and really, part of the problem is manpower, but the bigger problem is delivery of materials.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is a lot of pushing dirt in the initial.
Deal.
Nice presentation.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
we appreciate it.
I'm excited,
it's just
especially
a
the
little,
timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Scott.
I mean,
it's gonna be a great, great thing for this community long term.
So, Buzzy, I'll leave those there, the specifications are in the back chair back there.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Dylan, do you have anything you want to add?
No, sir. Just thank you to George and everybody else who's been involved. I know it's, there's been a lot of, people involved and a lot of kind of, different iterations of the plan, but I think what we show here is going to be good based on what we, have heard and seen that the community needs. So.
We'll read that all this evening.
Thanks, Dylan.
Okay. Next, we have our high-powered economic development team with us today. And, we're happy to have them here, and they're gonna talk to us about a new marketing plan, which, I've seen a little bit of detail on, and it looks very interesting and exciting, so,
And we're gonna let Kate come up and present.
come on up, Kate.
I'm messing with her. I told her I was gonna do that. If she came with us, I said, well, then you'll need to present if you come with
You
us.
have enough if you don't.
Well, if it gets turned down, you can blame her.
That's right, that's right. I emailed this out, so I think, did everybody receive this in email? And I just took the liberty of just doing those short bullet points. I gave you the link to the website for you guys to do some research on your own, about the company that we've been working with. So you guys are well aware, Whitney and I come visit you quite often, and you're well aware, of the things that have been going on over the last year. As we prepared last year, we're almost at our 1-year mark of our 5-year strategic plan. And so as a reminder, our strategic plan, is business retention and expansion, workforce attraction and development, industry attraction, and then just communication and making sure our investors and our stakeholders are informed with what's going on with economic development. So as part of that workforce and talent attraction, we really realize we've got to, we're not unique. Henderson's not unique in the fact that there's a workforce shortage. That's happening all over, but we've had a lot of successes, and we're trying to be proactive with what we know is coming in the future. And we need to grow our community and grow the population, to meet those needs of our in industries and for our city to continue to prosper. So we were really evaluating what we should do as a board and as an organization for that workforce attraction. And we started researching some marketing campaigns for talent attraction and workforce attraction. We constantly have meetings with different people, and they'll go, oh my goodness, I didn't know Henderson, I wasn't expecting this, this is so great. This is the best kept secret out there, and we need to make it more than the best kept secret. We need to let the world know all the great things that we have going on in Henderson. So this plan, really the target is, the goal of the campaign in the short synopsis is to grow our population, to grow our workforce and to grow Henderson's population. Also to increase awareness of the jobs that are available, and to increase the awareness of Henderson. And so the strategy of that would be a targeted digital campaign. It would be an 11-month campaign. There will be video, high-quality video shots. We will receive 4 videos for the campaign for us to use, but they'll also do targeted campaigns. We've discussed strategically where we would think of good targeted areas that would fit. You know, everybody talks about people moving from the bigger cities to work, you know, they can work from anywhere now, that piece, but also some areas where maybe our students go away to college and then commute back, or we want them to come back, they don't always come back, but we want them to come back. So just looking at those types of areas. So we would get updates on our website, that video for us to use, really grow our social media awareness. I think everyone knows we had a job fair a few weeks ago, and we provide a job board, a very clean job board for our local, it's Henderson only, it's hendersonkyjobs.com, and the city uses that page. All of our industries have really bought into that page, but also we need to spread that awareness out to the job seeker. So that is part of this campaign as well. I showed you on the email that I sent to you guys some people that you may know. I think a lot of you may know Carter Hendricks. He was the mayor in Hopkins County. He uses Marketing Alliance, has used Marketing Alliance in the past. Some of our colleagues in Paducah and Murray, they've used them, but they're a nationwide company. They have a great success rate with their clients, and I sent you a sample. They do several different things. The sample that I sent you guys is another talent attraction campaign that they did for a community, happened to be named Henderson, but it's not Henderson, Kentucky. Do you guys have any questions? Because I know you've had a little bit of, I guess, sent that out to you last week. Do y'all have any questions about the campaign?
Do we have an option to add on to it? If we're into it and it's a success and we know how much it costs for that first 11 months, and we want to do updated commercials for the next several years, do they have
Yes.
like an add-on feature to the
Yeah, and
contract?
they, in the proposal, I really did just a highlight. One thing I failed to mention is, we've talked to the Tourist Commission as well, and any of their B-roll that they have from their video, they're gonna allow us to use, and this company will use that so that we're not charged for them to come back and shoot handy next year, you know, or whatever that might be. But yes, they break it down into, you know, if you needed another video shoot, what that piece would be. It wouldn't be, the estimated cost of this initial campaign is approximately $60,000. But a video shoot, we may be able to break that out for $7,500 if we needed an update or something like that. But yeah, it is renewable.
You all have been doing such a good job for us. It's a fantastic job for us that I'm happy that we're at the point where it makes perfect sense to support something like this. Because with everything that we've got coming in, you're exactly right. One of our top priorities as a commission and for the Economic Development Department is to grow. And, you know, we have to do that. And honestly, when I saw the cost, I thought it was gonna be a lot more expensive. When I read through your stuff and I saw that we had to pay 30 and the county had to pay 30, I think it's a really good value, and we deserve to be getting our stuff out there
Yeah,
a little bit better than we have, so.
yeah, I appreciate that.
We definitely need to bring in outside people. Because it's no good if we bring in all this
I'll bring in
business
some back.
and they all move to Evansville, Newburgh, and commute over here.
I-
What, is there any way we can quantify?
That's what I was gonna ask, is there any
Yeah.
way to measure the?
They
Yeah.
will have analytics, so there will be measurables for us that they will report to us. I believe it's monthly. I have the whole proposal here that I can scroll through here in just a second, and Whitney's probably back there doing it now, since our brains work. Yeah, they'll send us analytics and monitor that, how many hits we're having, the increase in the page awareness, the videos, all those, was it monthly?
I was just on the results from the other campaign that they gave us as an example. One of their results was 131% increase in website page views, 215% increase in website unique visitors. So I'm sure as we get, that was their only 2 examples for us, but I'm sure we could get down into more direct measurables.
Was that for Hopkinsville?
No,
No.
this was for Charlotte County, Florida.
Oh, okay.
One comment, the EDC team has worked on this for well over a year. And I can remember the conversation that one of the first firms that they looked at, the cost was out of reach. So I'd just like to commend the team for being able to find a good firm at a fair price to accomplish this goal we have.
Did you present to the county this morning?
I did.
How did they
They
react?
were waiting until we came here, I think. They wanted to take it and have a little bit of time to think through it. I do recognize that it is kind of crazy timing since this is the end of a fiscal year and the beginning of another budget year, that we're coming in asking for additional funding, but.
I think I would be in favor of moving forward on this and kind of prodding the county to do the same, so.
I'm 100% in agreement with the mayor. I mean, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't, and why we wouldn't jump on it as quickly as possible, because it just fits with everything that we've announced and everything that is to be announced, it fits.
Our other option is to keep doing nothing like we've been doing, and this sounds like a
Exactly.
much better,
Same result.
Same
Yeah.
much better strategy moving forward, so I'm in favor of that.
So what, do we need a motion on this?
I would.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we move forward with donating half of the proceeds to economic development to get this done.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any final questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you
appreciate
guys
all you
for-
do.
Well, we appreciate your support. You guys are always so supportive, and thanks for letting us come. And, July 21st, I think the mayor has forwarded the invite to our annual dinner, and we'll celebrate all our successes
All
together.
right.
You got a bunch to celebrate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
do. Thank you. Okay. Electric vehicle charging stations. Our Henderson Municipal Utilities, Henderson Municipal Power and Light, is, been working on this for a while, and they're going to be ready when the market is ready, and Brad Bickett is going to, take us through what they've been researching.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Glad to be here, have the opportunity to talk to you all about a project that originally started with one of our utility board commissioners and the mayor. As you probably have heard, there's funding that's become available at the federal level for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. There's also, there's some other funding that came from a Volkswagen settlement funds that we are keeping an eye out, looking at. And I want to talk a little bit before we get into the presentation just about the industry and how it's changing. You all are familiar with basically every source of energy has been increasing due to either limited supply or rebounding demand, or sometimes it's a combination of both. And you see it in the natural gas market, you see it in the petroleum market. The war, invasion of Ukraine has made that problem even worse. Power markets are having the same type of phenomenon, and the power market's driven somewhat by the price of natural gas. It's the marginal generation in the market at times. It's also driven by the cost of coal. And it's also driven by the availability of power, being able to get it to where you need it and where it's generated. So whenever Henderson Power and Light began participating in the market after retiring plant in Seabury, we entered into contracts. We did a lot of things very quickly. At that time, there was surplus generation in the market. There was, and we have to think about both capacity and energy. You have to have capacity for power production. You also have to have energy. So I'm telling you all this to give you some background. We've basically been in a very good position with the contracts that we have in place, and we've seen the markets that have really been more volatile recently. The issue that's happening right now in the markets is that the amount of capacity that's out there is becoming more and more, it's less and less. As these coal plants are being retired across the country, there's not generation that's replacing those at the same pace. So the reason I wanted to lead into this presentation with that is because we're talking about electrifying the transportation sector. You gotta think about that for a minute. You can go to the internet, and you can look up how much energy right now is being used by the transportation sector in the form of petroleum fuels, gasoline and diesel primarily. If you look at what's going to happen, it's not a matter of if it's gonna happen, it's how long it's gonna take and when. That sector becomes, electrified, if you will, or using the grid. What's that gonna do to our load, our electricity requirements? And so I think it's interesting that our most recent power contracts we executed on February 23rd, and that very evening was when Russia announced they were invading Ukraine. Just let you know, at the time we ended those contracts, we thought it was a good deal. We believed it was a good deal based on what we do and what our consultants advised us. On the 24th, we knew it was a good deal. So, good news is we're well positioned for the changes that we're seeing. Challenge, though, is going to be that there's not a path forward that keeps us at prices that they are today. So as we go forward, we're looking at a new power plant. Whether we buy capacity in the market or we build it ourselves, either way is fine. There's some other benefits to having our own capacity. We certainly want to evaluate that. But we are going to need to continue doing that and looking out for making sure our customers have the lowest cost power that's out there available. I'm convinced we can do that, but I just want you all to know these times are very, very interesting. If you look at our region in the country, in the middle U.S., we're still about 40% coal. In Kentucky, we're about 60%. Even to the east of us, where they got more nuclear power, they're still about 20%. West of us, they're also about 40% coal. These plants are getting more expensive to run all the time. And again, there's not any being built today. So as we work to transition away from fossil fuels in this country, across the world, there's going to be new technology. Storage we're watching it very closely. Nuclear would be viable. But there's going to be an intermediate need for us, I suspect, to rely heavily on natural gas. And whatever we can combine with renewables to get us the power we need. So that leads me to the electric vehicle charging project that I want to talk to you about. The news is out there. You all have seen it. The discussions have been happening with what funding is out there. Can we put in some infrastructure? Some of the considerations that we have to think about, though, is when we put this stuff in, it has to be able to maintain. So in the conversations that we began having in February, it was kind of thinking along the lines of other business ventures that you might go into. You say, what kind of service can we provide, and how are we going to do that to the customers? So we started thinking about the origin of the electric utility in the city of Henderson. It started in 1896. That's when our first plant was built downtown. And it wasn't maybe not the main purpose of the plant, but it was certainly one of the main features of the plant was that we lit the streets. So at that time, the electrification was we light public areas, and that's a service that we offered to the citizens of Henderson. It was a great service. Folks were appreciative of it. They certainly liked the electric lighting better than the older oil lighting that was there before. That's just a picture of the downtown streetlights in 1954.
1954 that was called the Great White Way. And when new streetlights were put in downtown, that was the theme, the Great White Way. And it was a big deal back then.
Absolutely. So at that time, electrification was new. It was relatively new. And and it was a big change. And you saw a lot of power plants built across the country to accommodate that need. Now, again, like what I was saying, we're in the midst of electrification of other things, not just transportation, heating. We see a change in our load profiles in summer and winter. Summer loads have decreased slightly because of efficiency, conservation. Winter loads are increasing slightly due to the adoption of more efficient electric air source heat pumps. So we're seeing that happen. See in the news, the electric vehicle sales are increasing. Again, there's different opinions about how fast that rate's going to move forward. But as of in 2021, globally, the number of electric vehicle sales did double. This is just a forecast out through 2030 showing, and again, forecasts are different depending on who you ask, but the consensus is they are going to increase the number of electric vehicles. Talk about the different technology with electric vehicles. We've got complete battery electric vehicles, BEV, which are the plug-in. They use no gasoline fuel. We've got the plug-in hybrid, which is can be plugged in and it can also run off of gasoline. And then you've got what's called a hybrid electric vehicle. It's got an electric motor on it with a battery, and it will use regenerative braking to charge the battery. It's a little more fuel efficient. That's really not what we're talking about for the purpose of this project. We're looking at EVs and PHEVs, which are the plug-in hybrids. I just put in some slides here because whenever you look at the news, you see that electric vehicle charging stations are being put in cities across the country. They're generally subsidized. They're generally put in to provide a service like we talked about. This is Cambridge, Massachusetts, back in January. Los Angeles, this was an older article, but the point here is that they've had more charges put in than what they had planned. More locally, in the state of Kentucky, the LG&E announced that they're going to be putting in level 3 chargers. Level 3 is the highest or the quickest charging type system that you can put in, and there's been a rate approved by the Public Service Commission for those types of facilities to be installed by our industrial utilities. So our discussion at Power and Light started out with what type of charger would be appropriate. What's the path forward? How do we want to proceed? So you've got level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 2 are primarily only used for residential in residential housing. They take a long time to charge the vehicle. It's plugged into a standard receptacle, 120-volt receptacle. Your level 2 chargers, you'll find is most common. Businesses can put these in. The Public Service Commission has established a precedent or an order that says that folks can resell power if they're a business or anybody, really, if it's for EV charging and they're not considered a utility. Otherwise, and in the state of Kentucky at least, you cannot resell power. You have to be regulated by the Public Service Commission, or you have to be a municipal. And finally, level 3 are the quickest chargers. Again, they are really where you see this. It requires 3-phase power. It's more expensive. Typically, the businesses around town don't have 3-phase power. Your commercial customers do, industrial customers do. More expensive infrastructure, and a little bit more expensive to maintain. So we looked at it, map, and went to, this came from the Alternative Fuel Data Center, and we said, look, there's a need for electric vehicle charging in our area, there's no doubt about it. This is basically showing you level 2 and level 3 chargers in our region, or the lack of. So we said, okay, let's do level 2 charging, and I think that will make some sense. So we started doing an analysis of it. This table shows Tesla products. This was attainable online, and it shows what we're trying to accomplish here with an actual cost per mile for electric vehicle compared to a cost per mile for traditional, the acronym ICE, internal combustion engine vehicle. So you can see here that the data here is calculated using HMPNL's rate of 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's based on our current housing authority church school rate, and the Energy Information Administration, the EIA number I'm using for gasoline is outdated already, $33.11. But the point here is that when you look at fuel at cost per mile, pretty clear, at least using this basic wholesale power, or not wholesale, but the retail rate, that it's quite a bit cheaper or less cost just looking at the cost per mile based on fuel, whether it be electric or gasoline. So we look at it again and look at so many miles driven per year, how many miles per gallon, or how many miles per kilowatt hour you're getting. Cost on an annual basis for a gasoline vehicle, we estimate about $2,000. The comparable electric vehicle, we're at $279 again. Sounds like it's a pretty good deal if folks want to go that route. So let's talk about, we discuss how to offer this service. We need an electric vehicle rate to offer this service. What should be included? We need to pass through the wholesale cost of the power. We also need to recover our capital costs. We've determined that based on the technology and the equipment, a 5-year period is appropriate time or term for the recovery of the capital costs. We also decided that a rate per hour would be more suitable than a rate per kilowatt hour because these spots are going to be unmonitored. If somebody's parking there and plug their vehicle in and their car is completed the charge and they're off eating dinner or shopping or whatever, then the space is not available for the next customer. So as long as the car is there and plugged in, then the rate would be calculated. Those are kind of like basically what we started with on the EV rate discussion. We also had to make some assumptions for the level 2 charging project. We said it's going to be approximately 4 hours of use per day, average charge of, that's hitting the 15 kilowatt hours. And that's based on different electric vehicles will charge at different rates based on the size of the battery. But in general, you can come up with a pretty good assumption for level 2 chargers. The cost of this project we estimate would be $7,000, which would include the electric service, and then the charger itself with installation is about $15,000. So what did we come up with as results? $3 an hour would be a break-even rate over the 5 years. That comes out to about 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So while that's still lower cost per mile than a regular car, an internal combustion engine car, that's not going to be competitive against what's out there. Right now, there's level 2 charging that's free. You go to Evansville and parking garage, they've got one that's been funded by the help funded by DOE. You got businesses that are putting level 2 chargers on as a convenience to customers, and quite frankly, that's fine. That's not a bad solution for people that need to charge their vehicles. Also, as a municipal electric, we're not able to benefit from any tax incentive to offset the capital cost, and that is being taken advantage of by other folks that are putting these in. So what we thought was, okay, factoring in what we need to do in terms of a rate, level 2 doesn't seem to make sense in that it wouldn't be a draw for people that need to charge their vehicles. So we said, okay, let's look at it a little bit further. 20 cents per kilowatt hour is still quite a bit less than what it costs to fuel a traditional gasoline vehicle. And there are very few level 3 chargers that are in service. And as the utility, we can provide the necessary three-phase power as part of the business, as part of what we do. So we took another look at it, and we decided to go after a level 3 solution, which is the 480 volt power source. It's a DC power charging from the charger itself. Going back to the map I just showed you a while ago, now just looking at only level 3 chargers, far fewer available in western Kentucky, which leads you to say, okay, you know, there could be a desire, you know, a benefit to customers that would like to charge, especially with a shorter period of time needed to charge a vehicle. So we went back and we looked at the charging cost at 20 cents, which is what we came up with from the first rate analysis. Again, it's still less than half of what we think the cost would be compared to a gasoline vehicle. Going into the rate assumptions for the level 3 option, we also assume 4 hours of use per day, an average charge of 50 kilowatt hours. 3-phase service cost would be about $20,000. Charger and installation costs would be about $55,000. As a result, what we conclude is that we would break even if we charge $9.25 per hour, and that comes out to about 18.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Certainly competitive, especially with level 3 service. However, we need a return on the investment. Why do we need that? We have to maintain the equipment. One of the news articles I saw about a month ago out of Los Angeles was that someone did a book or an assessment of the chargers that were out there, and there was something like 25% of them were in operation, 25 to 30% of them weren't. So it's not just a matter of putting in the equipment and walking away from it. We have to own it, we have to operate and maintain it. So if we looked at a rate at $12.50 per hour, which comes out to 25 cents per kilowatt hour, that would be able to provide a net income of $50,368 over a 5-year period. That would also allow us to reinvest and expand the service, add more chargers over time. Now, we'll also mention here, this is not considering that we would be able to secure funding, which I believe we'll be able to, either federal, state, or for the cost, which would help us offset our costs, which could either allow us to have a higher return on investment or to lower the rate. So we had to think about, well, what's the right location? And there's a lot of discussion about this, and you should be close to downtown. There's a distance requirement off of an interstate to the federal funding requirement. It was, I think it has to be less than a mile from the interstate interchange. We also want to avoid taking up the parking areas that are in high demand. Really don't want to have a parking spot designated for EV charging that's not being used and other folks can't take advantage of it. So as of now, I don't have to slide in here for this, but the site that we have selected as being a good option is on Main Street. If you think about where the railroad track where the railroad tracks go over Main Street on it's basically between 4th and 5th Street. There's parking there. It's generally available. It's not used very much, but as you get closer to the railroad track, those spots are very rarely used, and they have pretty good access to downtown, just across the tracks from the bed and breakfast there. So where are we at? We've got a location that we think is going to work. We've talked with Buzzy, the mayor, about that, and we've budgeted funds. And it's an interesting point to note that the folks that are in charge of the Volkswagen settlement fund are interested to know who's out there that's interested to own and operate and is actually budgeting to do something like this anyway. So at this point, we are drafting the development specifications, drafting an RFP. Next step will be put out the bids and award a contract, see what we get back. And at some point in time in the future, expect I'll be back talking with you or asking for approval of a electric vehicle charging rate. And I'll stop there and ask if you've got any questions.
On that last phase, it's gonna be, when they charge, it's less than an hour, isn't it? You said
Right.
30 minutes, didn't it?
That's right. For a level 3 charger, it's what I've understood, it's about a 30-minute full charge. That's from, complete.
So we'd still charge for an hour.
Or half an hour and be charged for half the hour of the rate. I expect they could plug in 30 minutes
Okay.
and then pay
So they'd have that option.
a fractional hour.
A lot of them, you hear a lot of talk about 20 minutes for an 80% charge. That's a lot of that terminology.
And I've asked you this question before, but I wanted to ask you at the meeting. I'm curious to know if we're gonna do level 3 and differentiate ourselves from, a lot of the communities around us, which I'm totally in favor of doing. I'm curious to know, because I don't know, what it takes to get on the map for Tesla, for example. Is having a level 3 enough to get on whatever internal map their car users use? Or do we need to take that little extra step and make sure that it is, that we're not relying on them for their adapters, but that we provide the adapters so that we can call it a Tesla turbo station and be on their internal maps? And were we able to look into that to see what the requirements are?
But what I understand today is that the Tesla, owners can see level 3 chargers, whether it's a supercharger or not.
Okay,
They also have the ability to use an adapter to connect to what they call the combined charging system, the CCS plug versus the Tesla, proprietary plug. And I looked into also the actual, infrastructure bill funding, actually requires that the connector that you provide is more universal and not specific. So, it's certainly something we can look at, and I'm not sure that we could not secure some funding, to offer a specialized.
well, and in that case, I mean, I guess what I would be asking, if we looked into that, I wouldn't want it to only be a Tesla supercharger.
Right.
I would want to be a universal plus Tesla supercharger. Now, if it matters, like I don't have a Tesla and I've never looked at their maps or anything, but I do know that they use their maps.
Right.
To give themselves adventures on road trips, a lot of them do. And I would love it if our downtown area, if we're gonna do this anyway, was part of their adventure. So, I think it'd be worth looking into and making sure.
We certainly will, and we are learning as we go.
Yeah.
And the more that we, kind of go down this road, as you see through the presentation, we'll make some decisions as what makes the most sense. I think that you kind of hit on it, that there's an economic development benefit, I think, to this project. Certainly would put Henderson on the map,
Literally, yeah.
Right, for having this type of service offered, so.
What is what's the upfront cost again?
We estimate it's gonna be about $75,000 total for the capital, but now we'll know more when we get the bids back.
Sure.
For the RFP, but that's just using some,
Right.
budgetary numbers that we've been able to get from the manufacturers and from our own experience on them.
You basically hope, I guess, it'll pay for itself over time, and then there might be also some grant funds available.
Correct, and if you look at, our assumptions are obviously not gonna be correct, hopefully they're not too far off.
Right.
But, if we go with a rate that's comparable to what's been put out there and approved by the PSC so far, I think that, if they're used, then we should be able to have that, cover that cost of the investment.
Makes me wonder if we should just be looking at, one of these, or if we should be looking at three different parts of town or something.
Are we looking at 2?
So, right, this is kind of what we're calling a pilot project, hopefully kind of guiding us to expand it. As right now, it would be one pedestal type charger that would serve 2 spots.
But if it's successful and pays for itself, I mean, you showed it paying over a 5-year period of time at that rate with no funds, with no funds obtained,
Right.
about a $50,000 benefit to the utility, right?
That's correct.
So if this proves itself out after a year or two, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing what you just said. I mean, especially with I-69 construction and everything else, we can pick another location farther out 60 toward that
I
way.
mean, putting one on the 41 strip.
On the
would be-
41 strip, would be another reason
Yeah.
for people to come. Yeah.
A lot of opportunities there. I think most of these other, car manufacturers now that are, manufacturing full electric cars are also putting the mapping situations in their cars. So I think, it's gonna be a benefit to them too, to have that on there to both the customers and the car companies.
So it's interesting because, one thing I've learned is that these electric vehicles are being designed and manufactured at a time where you've got this technology already in place, the internet and the connectivity, whereas the older, cars, they've got to catch up, incorporate this latest technology. The Tesla, vehicles basically have the tablet and all the software and everything built into the car, so. Kind of a different way.
And driving traffic into downtown and having it come up on the screen and tell them what else we have to offer down there, and just like the people that come in on the river boats, they have, they've learned to love this community, and they tell their friends about it, and their friends want to stop here as well, so it's got I think it's got some value in a lot of different ways.
And even for us, as big as our fleet is as a city, it would give us an opportunity to at least examine the
Absolutely.
cost benefit of having electric vehicles in some parts of our fleet,
Yeah,
and then using these stations in the off hours.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
Not to, encourage the police chief, but there is a city in
oh, you're talking about they
Kentucky
went to all Tesla?
that have Tesla police
Oh,
cars.
man.
I've asked him to go look at them, but, maybe that's his substitute for hiring police officers. Self-driving cars.
Honestly, it sounds funny because they're so expensive compared to the vehicles that we get. But I mean, I would be willing to at least look at the cost benefit to see on a per mileage basis. We could have a significant savings. I don't know. I've never looked at something like that.
I've asked him to travel up there
Yeah.
and talk to them, but they've had them now for about a year?
And there's other brands that,
Sure.
that are very, very formidable in this field now, and, getting more so every year. Well, Brad, we appreciate your presentation. It's a good presentation, a lot of good information. I think we're on the right track. I think we're ahead of a lot. Brad, made this presentation to the, Kentucky League of Cities, group in Elizabethtown a month or so ago, and we probably we had 4 presentations that day, and there was more interest in this presentation than any of the others. And, so, it's a hot item right now, and we are actually talking to those other cities. We're ahead of the game pretty well on this, so, I think no-lose situation, the gain, we don't know what that's gonna be, but it's got the potential.
There's a matter of timing there too, if a lot of other cities are looking at it.
Absolutely. Now, I want, anything else you want to add on this subject? I want to talk about another subject. Okay. On another subject, Brad, sent everybody an email, and, it had to do with this FERC, settlement on funding and how that is being put back, because we don't have a definite on where that money is gonna go, end up, so on and so forth. And, so the Utility Commission last night at their meeting, voted to follow through with that particular situation. And, and they asked that the City Commission put that on their next, meeting agenda for approval. So,
Right.
yeah, so I wanted to make sure that everybody got that email, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give, Brad a call or an email, and he'll certainly answer the questions for you. But it's something that, I think the Utility Board thought we really needed to do, just to protect ourselves. We expected this FERC thing to be done,
Right.
months ago, and we don't know how long it's gonna run out here, but it needs to be done, so.
Thank you for mentioning that, and I'll just reiterate, if there's any questions, between now and July 12th, I think is the meeting, and I do plan to be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brad, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Mayor, can I request a 5-minute recess? Absolutely. I have a personal matter I need to.
Yes, we're gonna have a 5-minute recess, be back in here at 3:21, or thereabouts.
Or 4:21.
4:21, whatever.
Yeah, no, I hate it.
We are back in session, and our next presenter is Tom Williams, General Manager of the Henderson Water Utility, and he is going to give a water treatment presentation.
As I said, thank you for saving the police from talking to last. We took a break, so you're all woken up. As you know, on the 15th, EPA stated their interim health advisory for PFAS compounds. What a health advisory is just a cursor to setting limits, regulatory limits. Idea of what the health effects of substances are. And they have set these levels at very, very low levels, 4 parts per quadrillion, when the best test that's available now for some of these products can go down to 2 parts per trillion. So 1,000 times, the level is 1,000 times below what we could detect. So in thinking through this, of course, EPA also isn't recommending that utilities take any action unless they have concentrations above 4 parts per trillion. And our latest results, the worst, were 2.5 parts per trillion. So we're not required to do anything, but what we have come up with is a plan to do some initial testing, again, treating with powdered activated carbon at a low level, just more testing, raise those levels, and do that a couple of times till we get up to limits of what we could probably see powdered activated carbon, and then to see where we are. So we just wanted to let you know that we do have a plan. We are moving forward with that. We are upping our testing from what we were planning. We had budgeted to do quarterly testing. We're going to do monthly testing at least now, probably at a higher level than that even. So you've got a copy of the memo from me, and it included a copy of the press release that we put out last week. And well, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
I want to mention that Kevin Roberts is here as well, and Kevin is
Kevin is kind of our resident expert on this. He's our director of operations.
Key person on this, and very attentive to this situation. Any questions for?
No, I just want to commend you for getting out in front of this. Didn't have to.
You know, there have been cities in years past that had some problems in some areas, and they would shovel carbon into the river around their intake, and to try to get their levels down. And so we're doing it a different way now. I mean, now there's a different way to do it. They didn't have a different way to do it. And so it's kind of interesting.
There's close to 200 million people in the United States that are customers of systems that have levels like we do, and very big issue. The way EPA is approaching this is a little strange. The level is so low, but they are looking at the science and to a certain extent looking at publicity and doing what they think is right, and we're just responding to that, trying to do what we think is right, and in the best interest of our customers.
Tom, are we having to do that at the South Treatment Plant as well, or
we don't?
Since that water comes out of the Green River? The
background level testing that was done by DOW in 2019, I think, showed levels of basically non-detect south intake. Different water source. Most of the plants that produce these compounds were located on the Ohio River upstream from us, between here in Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. There just isn't that kind of industry on the Green River. Not to say that these compounds aren't in the Green River water, they're just at such low level
they don't test. Yeah.
As we said before, this is in the tissues of every living being on the planet. Yeah. It's not something that's unique to Henderson or unique to this part of the country.
I think the main thing on this is that we are aware of this. We have people in place that know what to do and know how to do it. And we are ahead of came almost all the way across the board on this. And so I appreciate the work that y'all done and the work that you will continue to do. And I'm confident that our water will be as safest or as safe as any in the United States. And so, about that. Any questions for Tom?
And if you have any questions, often, after this, off in the future, just let us know. We'll probably be reporting back to you how our testing turns out.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Let you
Yeah,
you know where we are.
that'll be interesting. Thank you, Tom.
I'm
sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to take a second to say that Commissioner Vowles and I went down and met with Tom and Bart and Kevin and a few other people out at HWU last Tuesday, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they were talking through this with us, and I just wanted to say that I was very impressed that your all's main concern was just delivering the most high-quality, safest, reliable drinking water to our customers that you can. And that if we have to do anything extra, that you were Johnny on the spot, willing to do it, willing to do whatever we can to take it down to as close to a non-detect as we can. And I appreciate your efforts. When you're not gonna hear about any other communities up and down the Ohio doing anything, and they're probably more of a wait-and-see mode, we are getting out in front of it. I appreciate your attitude and your help.
So that's probably good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a consent agenda with 3 sets of minutes and 9 what I will call common resolutions and municipal orders that are just kind of standard things for the year end and the year start.
The minutes of the July 27th, 2021 regular meeting, the July 27th, 2021 Joint City Water and Sewer Committee meeting, and the July 30th, 2020 meeting. Resolution 16-2, resolution approving agreement with the board allocating $225,223 for airport services and authorizing mayor to execute agreement. Resolution 17-22, resolution approving agreement with the Henderson Commerce Downtown Henderson Partnership Committee allocating $46,000 for services in support of downtown Henderson and authorizing mayor to execute agreement. 18-22, resolution approving agreement with Henderson Economic Development allocating $60,000 for services and authorizing mayor to execute agreement. Resolution 19-22, resolution approving memorandum of understanding between the city and Henderson Tourist Commission regarding personnel for the Henderson Welcome Center Gallery 101. 20-22, resolution authorizing funding for City County Human Rights Commission in the amount of $42,340. Resolution 21-22, resolution authorizing funding for Henderson County Planning Commission in the amount of $380,451. Resolution number 22-22, resolution approving agreement and statement of affiliation between the Henderson City County Rescue Squad Incorporated, the City of Henderson, the County of Henderson, and Henderson Emergency Management. Resolution 23-22, resolution approving community development block grant subrecipient agreement with the Father Bradley Shelter for Women and Children Incorporated. Municipal Order 47-22, municipal order authorizing lease of office space at 1990 Barrett Court to Henderson Emergency Management and authorizing mayor to execute lease agreement.
Is there any item, Commissioner would like to pull off of the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. Next is second reading of ordinance amending the 2022 budget.
Sheeted and pre-recorded. Budget and appropriation ordinance. An ordinance amending budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022 for the city of Henderson, Kentucky. Whereas on June 8th, 2021, the city of Henderson adopted its annual budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022, being ordinance number 10-21. And whereas on December 14th, 2021, the city of Henderson amended its annual budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022, being ordinance number 49-21. And whereas the city manager recommends that the following additional amendments be adopted, now therefore be it ordained by the city of Henderson, Kentucky, that ordinance number 49-21 is amended as follows. Number 1, general fund. Administration, $2,951,380. Finance, $2,559,270. Fire, $7,642,460. Parks and Recreation, $2,163,460. Police, $8,401,040. Public Works, $2,625,860. Information Technology, $912,020. Other, $1,954,510. Transfer, $6,112,000. Total, $35,322,000. Number 2, there is hereby appropriated from the general and special fund accounts of the city of Henderson and allocated to the various funds of the city the following amounts. General fund. General fund expenditure total, $29,210,000. Transfer to PWI, $1,261,000. Transfer to Mass Transit, $286,000. Transfer to Construction Fund, $525,000. Transfer to Emergency Communications, $540,000. Transfer to Police and Fire Pension, $354,000. Transfer to Civil Service Pension, $82,000. Transfer to Cemetery, $254,000. Transfer to Bond Fund, $2,810,000. Total General Fund, $35,322,000. Natural Gas Fund, $27,034,000. Health Reimbursement Arrangement, $340,000. Civil Service Pension Fund, $88,000. Police and Fire Pension Fund, $354,000. Cemetery Fund, $512,000. Health Insurance Fund, $8,646,000. Bond Fund, $6,761,000. Public Way Improvement Fund, $1,936,000. Construction Fund, $15,434,000. Hard Operating Fund, $1,540,000. Sanitation Fund, $4,244,000. Emergency Communications Fund, $1,649,000. Tourism Commission Fund, $199,000. Community Development Fund, $787,000. Police Investigation Fund, $71,000. Number 3, the number and classifications of city employees as recited in the annual budget is approved as presented. Number 4, the city manager is authorized to hire an additional 1 police officer when it is deemed necessary for the chief of police and the city manager due to the length of training necessary for this position. Number 5, the city manager is authorized to hire additional non-hazardous duty personnel for key positions when deemed necessary for succession training purposes, and the expenditures for the additional hires do not exceed the appropriations granted. Number 6, this ordinance shall be effective as of July 1st, 2021. This ordinance of amendment shall become effective upon its legal adoption.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
Ordinance number 14.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one comment that I make every year. On these budget amendments, I understand the need on the original budget ordinances to read them all. But there are many cities on these budget amendments that are just reading summaries.
Yeah.
And it seems that that is legally allowed. I'd really like it if we could eventually switch to doing the same thing instead of having 4 minutes of you having to read these over and over again during our meetings. That's all.
City Clerk, what do you think about that?
If If our city attorney can write up that summary that meets her requirements, I'm all for it.
Okay, would you talk to her about that?
Sure.
You do that,
See what can do.
I actually know the answer to this. So you can, yes, as long as the summary in the heading gives the public sufficient information, particularly on the second reading, you're not required to read the entire ordinance. Now, as a matter of caution, you might want to, on the budget items that are changed,
Yes,
to reiterate those.
exactly.
So if it may save some time, but for example, coming up on this MOU agreement that's coming up, that's to be, as long as the heading, the statute says, gives sufficient information to the public, a full reading is not necessary.
Here we go.
I just thought I'd get that on record again. I probably say it every single year we do a budget amendment.
All right,
Thank you.
got it. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles? Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
We did have a second on that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Okay, next is a ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan for budget year 2023.
Ordinance number 16-22, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan. Ordinance approving amendment to job classifications and pay plan for non-hazardous duty positions, fire hazardous duty positions, and police hazardous duty positions for fiscal year 2023.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Next, we have a resolution, asking for approval to submit a grant application for pipeline, et cetera, for the gas department.
Resolution number 24-22, resolution authorizing the application to and acceptance of funds from Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Third.
Any questions or comments? It'd be a nice grant for us to get.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
All right. Now, this one is a little bit more complex. Municipal order awarding bid for,
With the
okay.
Resolution number 25-22, resolution approving memorandum of understanding between the City of Henderson Police Department and Henderson County Sheriff's Office, creating the Henderson County Task Force, and authorizing mayor to execute the memorandum of understanding on behalf of the city.
Is there a motion to approve, please? Your second? I want to say this is a very important, opportunity for our community. And, we haven't always been on the same page throughout our city and county. And you and the sheriff have worked on a plan that I think is just great for our community. So, you feel free to give us a summary or talk about anything you want to talk about.
Mayor, thank you for that. A lot of work has went into this. I've been reemployed with the city now. Next month will be 3 years. When I came back, one of my number one priorities was to enhance the relationship with the sheriff's department, especially in the area of narcotics investigation. And we worked and we worked and we worked, but at that point in time, the timing or the communication or relationship to do so was there. So we just kept working, and we kept working, and kept working, and timing was on our side. And we come up with this, the sheriff and I, and really happy to present it this morning in front of fiscal court this morning, and had a lot of good comments and feedback about it. What I'd like to say is, what this does, for a minimal amount of money, we will now force multiply our narcotics division by 1. Don't sound like much, but that's one person, one body, Then work city, county, and we're gonna work hand in hand. We're gonna sit together every day. What they work on, we will know. What we work on, they will know, and we'll do it together. We can talk about relationships and partnerships. When you put it on paper and you do what we've done here, that means you really mean it. I think that's where the sheriff and I are at. We're ready to move forward with this. One thing I would add, we already work together on a whole lot of stuff. We've really incorporated the sheriff's department because we have a training division, whether it's driving, firearms, or defensive tactics. We've opened our arms and pulled them in, more so than ever before. We have a domestic violence thing we've been working on for months. The sheriff and I, we've been to all the meetings together. So this isn't really, anything new. It's different, but we've been working together on stuff. Anyway, I'm real proud to bring it to you, and I think, without a doubt, it's going to enhance the safety of officers, and to also enhance, the service we're gonna provide to the citizens of Henderson.
Again, thank you for you and the sheriff's cooperation on this thing, and, it is gonna be a big plus, I'm sure.
Chief, the level of division that existed 6 years ago between the police department and sheriff's department concerning narcotics investigation was disappointing, very, and it hurt the community. And so to see you all doing this today, I don't think that people really understand how big of a step this is in terms of you all working together on these matters, because it's been an awfully long time since the two departments have been on the same page regarding how to go about narcotics investigations. So I appreciate you working on that.
And we've worked together on some capacity, but it was just never enough, and it always fell short of a true partnership relationship. And I think this today would do that.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any other questions for the chief? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Sorry that I didn't have that on my paper here.
Because never mind.
All right.
All right.
Ms. Florida awarding a bid for meter reading services.
Okay. Municipal order number 48-22, municipal order awarding bid for meter reading services to Burmax Incorporated of Stowe, Ohio.
Robert, would you come forward, please? So, summary on what this is, what the impact is, what are problems and opportunities.
Well, like many areas, city, we're having difficulty finding and retaining careers. This one's a little bit more important now than it was 11 years ago when we were looking at this because of the energy prices. It's changing so drastically, especially over the 9. I think it's very important that we get accurate reads of it, had to estimate these, because we have 2 vacancies, we allocated other areas to do this, especially this time of year when because of the heat. Ask for bids, we get hope, but we thought this was our last resort. As I mentioned in the memo, we are moving toward an automated system so that eventually heat meter readers, but that process is taking a lot longer than we had hoped. Gas will probably be the first utility that gets this done. We hope that's done by the end of this fiscal, or the coming fiscal year.
This is a partnership that we will still have meter readers,
Right.
but then we will have kind of reserved meter readers as well that, will help in this process. And again, one of the big problems is if you don't have enough reader meters, you start having to estimate. And people don't like that estimate. And remedy. And the longer it goes, the better it's gonna get because of the, electronic, meters. But we've got a ways to go yet, especially in services.
So there are some months, we try not to we try not to estimate a meter more than 1 month. But because of the shortage of meter readers, it's gone 2 months, sometimes 3 months. And no one likes to have that meter estimate.
It's just one of those things that we need to correct and we need to do, in my opinion.
We'll have 2 meter readers, we hope to keep them. Even after we transition to the AMR or AMI system, we assign these positions. We can think that we're eventually phasing them out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a hybrid system, we'll have 2 meter readers and contracts.
A motion to approve, please. So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments for Robert? Appreciate you working on this, Robert. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Mayor, real quick, I think Robert may want to just make a brief statement where we stand looking at sanitation in the future too. We're facing very similar issues with manpower.
Right, maybe a situation where we will have little pockets of contractors doing that collection, similar to what we're gonna do with meter reading, where certain parts of the city of that maybe truck routes, contract sanitation. We'll have to look at everything to get this.
All manpower related. Into that conversation. I'll bring that back to you in August.
Yes.
We just had some visitors come in, and,
Yeah.
did you hear it? Did you hear it? Okay, all right, welcome. I just wanted to make sure that you knew what the outcome of that was, so it was.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
They voted, it's approved.
Yeah.
What they're revisiting in August is contracting other services.
Thank you for your work. I know you're in the meter reading and I know it's tough, and I know the situation on it, so thank you very much for what you do and get us through as best you can, and that's all you can do, and we appreciate it. Okay, Buzzy's got 2 things he wants to mention.
I'm gonna do the easy one first. It's not real easy, but as y'all know, the water feature's up and running. We will tell you, when we came to y'all, we had a plan. We had, cost estimates that we thought were valid at the time. And that was over a year ago. Since then, we've had a lot of challenges getting materials, and the cost of materials have gone up. And so we've had a cost overrun on that project. But today, the one thing I will ask for y'all to approve is a change order to our plumbing contractor who did work on the project. And what we're looking for, I'm looking at this now, $12,446 is what we need a change order to Harold Fish Company out of Evansville. And what I want to further say is we're still collecting some of our other expenses that we've had that were either unexpected or things that we just need to bring back to clean that up. I wanted to bring this one before you today because we would like to close out their contract. Pay them what we owe.
The water feature is working great. But we've still got things to do down there. We don't have the fencing in yet. The benches will be put back in there when the fencing is put in there. But, I think that everybody wanted, in that really hot weather, wanted to get the water flowing down there, and it's been really, good attendance. So
Mark, you got anything to add?
yeah, it is looking good and running good.
Wonderful.
So, is there a motion to, adjust the finances on the water feature by $12,400?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Buzzy, I just have one question. I'm sure you've taken a look at this. Do you think this is justified? Is this something you're recommending that we approve?
Yeah.
Increases pretty much passed along the suppliers to the plumbing company.
Yeah, we paid for materials, and material pricing went up over the winter. Sure. It's like everything else. The other items we'll bring to you later, but just wanted to forewarn you, we did have overages. Second item. Oh, I'm sorry.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Vels,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
I'll be glad to not hear two words anymore, and I don't know if we'll ever hear it in my lifetime. Inflation and override.
Well, let me bring before you another scenario we have, and I call it not a perfect storm, the worst storm. I'll tell you. We opened bids last week for a Pratt-related project. And what the project is the installation of 2 turning lanes into the Pratt complex off of Highway 425. Now, let me give a little background. When Missy was working her deals with the state, she managed to get a $500,000 grant from KYTC in the form of economic development. So in a sense, it's not your typical grant. So at the time we were all sitting around the table, the county agreed to put $1 million into any projects relating to the entrances or internal roads will become public roads after the project's completed. So we have $1.5 million. At the time, our design consultant, QK4, who is also the civil designer for the Pratt project, put an estimate on the project of $1.4 million. As we worked our way through the design phase, the transportation cabinet required us to do additional work that was not originally in the scope of work. We had to comply with their request. And where I'm getting to, when we opened the bids last week, came in at $2.3 million, and furthermore, there was only one bidder on the job. Let me just say, go on the record to say, this is not unusual. To only see one bidder and/or see the cost come in over budget. So, 2 comments I want to make. Talked to Robert a little bit about it. Under our agreement with the Transportation Cabinet, we have right to sit down with the sole bidder and negotiate this contract to figure out if we can get it back in line with our budget, but I'm very doubtful that we can, but we're going to try to work on that tonight. The other thing I will say, we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, at 4 o'clock with Pratt, and we're going to share with them what we know thus far, because this road impacts their project. It also impacts our memorandum of understanding that we have with Pratt. So there's a lot of moving parts, too many to discuss today, but I just want to tell you, this project time is of the essence on it, like everything else has been with Pratt. But if you've not driven out on 425 to see, you can't back up and not notice the progress that they're making. And Missy, Tom, and I meet with them every 2 weeks, and everything's about the schedule. We are part of that critical path to getting the plan up and running, of which these turning lanes are a part of that. So the point I'm getting to, it's gonna take us a little time to figure this out. We may have to have a special call meeting to approve the contract. It all depends on how far we can get with it. We should know more by Thursday, I would think. That's my comment under city manager's report.
Any questions on?
The turning lane's gonna be on 425?
Yes, sir.
Right
What-
off of 420.
What they are coming,
10-foot thing and then.
it's a de-acceleration lane, so heavy truck traffic coming in from either direction will be able to get off 425 and allow traffic to move on through.
And 425 is not considered a state?
It is a state road.
Can I ask you that outside these meetings? I'll
Well,
have some questions.
I know what you're thinking,
Yeah, thank
and
you.
we can answer that question. It's, do you have anything you want to add? Beg for money.
Yes.
And I think it's fair to say, we're now up to about chapter 24 on the Pratt project. And it seems like every time we turn a corner, we face a significant challenge. But we've always managed to work through it. I think we'll work through this one way or the other, so. And if you don't care, do you mind if I
No, you
leave?
go, because they're each meeting right now with.
In the morning?
Yeah. Thank you. Any commissioners have anything they want to bring forward?
Today we had the Rotary Trivia Night for the first time since before COVID, I think, this past Saturday. Raised a lot of money for some scholarships, and the light was part of that thing. Exciting to have that back on the table and those scholarships available.
Great. It's always a good project and always a good fundraiser, so. Done that.
We've got a PFAS work group meeting that's gonna happen in July.
Okay.
It is yet, I would imagine the water department's gonna be there to expand a little bit on what they presented to us. And then we'll be hearing, I have to get with them, but we should be hearing an update from Tony. Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Tony Hadden, with the state.
Yeah.
And I'll let everybody know when that happens. Also, something that you asked me to bring up at the end of the meeting, I had asked, Don Kelsey to look into and Greg Nunn to look into something that's very insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but, to change our email addresses. The end of our email address is @cityofhendersonky.org, and that's, it's quite long. And they are looking into doing something a little shorter. I think the mayor may have some ideas on what he'd like to see there too. Just thought I'd bring that up in case you all have any comments about that you'd like to pass along, maybe outside of this meeting.
If you have a thought on it,
Yeah.
later. One of the things we see with businesses is they try to, on their phones and their email and everything, they try to compact everything that they can because, and I've noticed, you're on the telephone and somebody says, what's your email address? And you say, Steve Austin @cityofhendersonky.org. It's, what was that? Oh, it's just, it's kind of clunky.
Yeah.
I'm sure if they get one letter wrong, they
Yeah.
can get.
Yeah.
I used to let me send you an email and you will reply back.
Yeah. And, it may be that, well, we would keep the old email as well, and it would feed into the new emails. But, it's, I want to modernize that a little bit. Look at it, and if anybody has any. Did you have anything?
Not this time.
Did you have anything? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.